Good morning, I'm Tamara Shoemaker. I know my husband pretty well. We've been married about 17 years, a little over, and I've had time to get to know him pretty well. And one of the things that I know about him is what he likes to order whenever we go out for ice cream, specifically. And you have a bajillion flavors at most ice cream places, like actual ice cream stores. And so when we go, we both tend to get a little bit overwhelmed by the lists and the lists and the lists of flavors of ice cream, as well as how to put ice cream together, like in a sundae or in a cone or in a milkshake or a bowl or a waffle cone or a banana split, a cake cone. Reminds me a little bit of Dr. Seuss's Green Eggs and Ham. I would eat them in a boat. I would eat them with a goat. I would eat them in the rain, in the dark, and on a train. And da 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 da. Anyway, by the time I make my decision, many minutes have passed, and the rest of the family is getting impatient. But my husband will always, or has up until this point, always chosen chocolate ice cream. No questions asked, no second guesses. He just wants chocolate ice cream. And so if I'm required to order for him, I don't even need to really check with him to find out what he wants. I already know because I know him. I know him, so I know what he wants. Over the years, I've wondered if he'll ever, change his preference. Sometimes we go and we stand there and we look at the options and I suggest things and that I think might tempt him, right? And he hems and he haws and finally he just shakes his head and he says, no, I'm going to get chocolate ice cream. Anyway, maybe after 50 years or something, he'll surprise me and he'll get like a lemon tart or something, but it hasn't happened yet. In Romans chapter 8, verses 18 to 27, Paul talks a lot about, he says a lot of really good things, really deep stuff. And this blog post and this vlog post would be a mile long if I talked about all of it. So I'm going to focus on my favorite part of it towards the end, where it says, in the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us with groans that words cannot express. And he who searches our hearts knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints in accordance with God's will. It's Romans 8, 26 and 27. So just so we're clear, my ice cream example is a highly superficial and imperfect illustration, but it helps me to wrap my mind around this idea. I know what my husband wants, even while he's hemming and hawing over there and looking at ice cream flavor lists. No matter what he thinks about trying, how much he thinks about trying something different, right? His favorite is his favorite. And I know with assurance what he wants, even if he feebly, protests that he might want to try something different. The Holy Spirit knows what's in our hearts, right? He knows what's in our hearts, even when our thoughts and our feelings are so jumbled up, we don't have much of an idea ourselves what's in our hearts. And so because he knows, he can take our requests to the Father and put in perfect words that we can't come up with ourselves. Okay, look, here's what she needs. Here's what he needs, right? And the best part about this is the Holy Spirit is the shop owner. He's already got the perfect order laid out, right? He's known all along what he's going to give us. It says the Spirit intercedes in accordance with God's perfect will, right? Pressure's off. He knows what's best for us, and we want his will, even when we don't always know what that will is. But the Holy Spirit does know. That's so awesome. And he's got it all lined up for us. He asks for us. He is for us. Romans 8:31 says, if God is for us, who can be against us? So there's this meeting place, right? Somewhere in the middle of God's foreknowledge and his calling, and our willingness to reach out to him. And it's right there at that meeting place where we reach out for him and where he calls us that the Holy Spirit lives. He makes all these connections meet. He pulls at our hearts and he brings the Father's will in to meet us. When I got married, I asked one of my good friends to be my wedding coordinator. And I had a million ideas of, what I wanted my wedding to look like. I had made lists and I checked out books and I surfed the internet and had websites that I had bookmarked and I planned. But when May 22nd, 2004 rolled around, I was stuffed back into a Sunday school classroom with a broken air conditioning on a hot day, just, to add insult to injury, and no way to make sure that everything was happening the way that I wanted it to happen. But, and this was good, my wedding coordinator friend had sat down with me for months beforehand. She had listened to my thoughts and what I hoped for and the dreams that I'd had as a kid, growing up and planning what I wanted a wedding to look like. And she'd looked at all those lists and she'd made lists of her own and she knew my heart and she cut down past all the fluffy, what if I, and how about we? And she made it happen exactly as I hoped that it would happen, even though I didn't necessarily have my mind wrapped around completely what I wanted it all to look like. So on the day of the wedding, she was in and out of the back room where I was to make sure that things were running as they were supposed to be. And I saw pictures later of her in with my groom and his groomsmen, straightening tuxedos and attaching boutonnieres and different things, wheeling snack carts to various people. She had a hand in, beautifully decorating our getaway car, which is something I thought was pretty cool. And she made sure that decorations and catering and reception activities were delegated to different people and running correctly and smoothly. And so then when the ceremony itself happened, she had her notes as she manned the door at the back of the sanctuary. She lined up the wedding party. She told each person exactly when to enter and on what beat of music and so forth. She was amazing and probably could and should have charged me a lot more than what she actually did for her service. But the Holy Spirit is our, for lack of a better word, wedding coordinator between us, the bride of Christ, and our heavenly bridegroom, right? The Holy Spirit takes our hearts, our hopes, our prayers to the Father, and he lays out those things in such a perfect array, like that the whole wedding ceremony just works together in perfect harmony. We can wait in peace for our bridegroom because the Holy Spirit is bringing that ceremony together. It's happening. We don't have to worry about the details. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us. And soon the doors at the back of the auditorium are going to open and we're going to see the bridegroom face to face, without the distance of hallways and classrooms between us, right? Right there in front of us. Aren't you excited? I can hardly wait. I'm so excited. All right. I'll see you tomorrow for the rest of Romans chapter 8.